Okay, we have to show that this can be written as that. Right, let's look at this. How are we going to simplify this? We have a 1 over root 2 on the bottom here. So to simplify that, we need to multiply it by root 2. Because we'll have root 2 on root 2 then, which is just 1. Much nicer than that. So that's a good way to go. So, are we allowed to multiply that by root 2? Well, we can achieve that by multiplying the bottom of this whole thing by root 2. And we are allowed to do that as long as we multiply the top by root 2. Because for any fraction, okay, a over b say, you can do whatever you want to the bottom as long as you do the same to the top. Okay, so a over b is exactly the same as, let's multiply top and bottom by 6. That's the same as 6a over 6b. It's still correct. It's still the same fraction. So with fractions, you can multiply the bottom by whatever you like as long as you multiply the top by the same thing. So that is equal to, we're going to multiply top and bottom by root 2. Okay, so the top, 1 times root 2 is just root 2. Okay, and the bottom, I'll write it out. We're multiplying everything on the bottom, so we have to put the whole of the bottom in brackets. We're multiplying it by root 2. It's 1 plus 1 over root 2. Okay, so that becomes, well, it's just root 2 on the top. Root 2 times 1 is root 2. Root 2 times 1 over root 2 is root 2 on root 2, which is just 1. Good. So we've gone from there to there, and already it's looking slightly nicer because we don't have any fractions inside fractions. Okay, now what we have to do next is somehow get this surd, this root 2 on the bottom, get rid of that. We want just numbers on the bottom. Ideally, we want nothing on the bottom. We want everything on the top. So how do we do that? Well, if it was just a surd on the bottom, it would be easy. We'd multiply top and bottom by that surd. But it's not. We've got this extra number. So there's a trick which you need to remember for when you see this. Okay? First thing I'm going to do is rewrite this with the number 1 first. So root 2 over 1 plus root 2. Okay, it's the same thing, I've just reversed the order. The reason I've done that is generally you'll see it in this form with the number, with the normal number first and then the surd. Okay, and the trick is this. What you do, you multiply top and bottom by 1 minus, well, that number minus that surd. Okay, so what I'm talking about is this. Just make that line a bit longer. Put the bottom in brackets. So at the moment it's still the same. Okay, but we're going to multiply top and bottom by that minus that. So 1 minus root 2. Multiply the bottom by 1 minus root 2. Okay, and that's the trick. And the reason we do this is this. You'll see when we multiply this out. So let's multiply out the top first. What do we get? Root 2 times 1 is root 2. Root 2 times minus root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is 2, so it's just minus 2. Okay? Right, the bottom. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times minus root 2 is minus root 2. Root 2 times 1 is root 2. And plus root 2 times minus root 2 is minus 2. Okay? And look what's happened. We've got minus root 2 plus root 2. The surds cancel out. So that's why we multiply top and bottom by this minus that. It's to kill off the surds. So what we're left with is root 2 minus 2 on top, root 2 minus 2, and on the bottom it's just 1 minus 2, which is minus 1. You see, we've just got normal numbers on the bottom, no more surds. Clever trick, remember it. Okay, right, we're nearly there. We've got to get it in the form 2 minus root 2. It's over minus 1 at the moment. So, there's lots of ways of looking at this. What should we do? We can rewrite that as root 2 over minus 1 minus 2 over minus 1, if you like, okay, which is equal to root 2 divided by minus 1. It doesn't matter, the minus is there, it could be on top really, so you can just write that as minus root 2 over 1. I mean, going from root 2 over minus 1 being equal to minus root 2 over 1, just multiply top and bottom by minus 1. Okay, so that's minus root 2, because minus 1 times root 2 is minus root 2, minus 1 times minus 1 is 1, so that's effectively over 1, which is just minus root 2. Same thing here, that's just minus and minus is a plus, so it's going to be plus 2. Again, if you like, you're multiplying top and bottom by minus 1. Minus 2 times minus 1 is plus 2. And again, minus 1 times minus 1 is 1. No need to write that. Okay, and we'll just change the order to get it like that. It's plus 2 minus root 2. And there we go. Done. Like I say, you don't have to think of it like that, rewriting this as two separate fractions. You could have looked at it like this. Just multiply top and bottom by minus 1. So minus 1 times root 2 minus 2 all over minus 1 times minus 1, which is equal to minus 1 times root 2 is minus root 2. Minus 1 times minus 2 is plus 2 all over minus 1 times minus 1 is 1, which is equal to minus root. Anything over 1 is just itself. So it's minus root 2 plus 2, which is 2 minus root 2. Same thing. Doesn't really matter. The important bit, okay, is this bit. So remember, if you have a normal number and a surd on the bottom, for example 1 plus root 2, to get rid of that, multiply top and bottom by the number minus the surd. Number minus the surd. Good. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please click the like button, and it would be a massive help if you could subscribe. It would also be amazing if you could support me on Patreon. All the papers and everything are on my website, drgem.com, and I'm also on social media. Thank you.